Good morning, everyone. MJ Malik here, the Director of Business Development at Buzzbold, and I am honored today to be introducing you to Jackie J.P. Phillips, our Director of Customer Success, and Antonio T. Harris of Antonio T. Harris Photography here in St. Louis, Missouri. And they are going to be doing a session on respecting identity in visual marketing and the importance of representation. So with that, I will hand it over to JP and let her take it from here.
Thank you so much, MJ. Antonio, thank you so much for joining us. We're just going to jump right into it. So my very first question is, when did you fall in love with visualization? When did your love for photography and all things surrounding photography, when did that start burning in you?
It started actually in 1977. And that sounds strange because at that time I was about 6 years old and going to a movie. No one knows about this movie. No one's ever heard of this movie. But when I went to the movie theaters to see it, it was just visually impacting me. The movie is Star Wars. So I'm like, whoa, look at this. And from there, the visualization, me just really liking colors and all that good stuff. It was embedded in me. Photography came many years later. I still held on to that visualization, always been a visual person. But photography came about where I would just have a small camera and I would just shoot certain things. And it's like, I really do like this. This is very interesting. I was initially introduced to photography by my wife, who worked at the J.C. Penney's and the Sears. And she's like, you know what, how can we make a little extra money? And I'm like, okay, well, photography. I know a little bit about computers, so I can do some editing. Got into the editing piece. We started doing photography and everything. And it got to a point where I was kind of saying, hey, babe, can you kind of tilt the camera this way? And she's like, look, wait a minute. Instead of me tilting this camera and doing this, why don't you just go ahead and shoot? And I'm like, well, I'll try it. It didn't take long. From there, it was one of those things where it's like, okay, I really do like this. I can, I'm shooting and I'm also, doing the editing piece. So I only thought it would be like kind of a temporary thing. And then 1977 came back where I like a lot of visual things. And I noticed that throughout just my life, how I look at things is very, very visual. So we started doing weddings and, from there, I decided, hey, by going to a lecture in St. Louis, let me go ahead and kind of step into possibly headshots. Okay. I never really wanted to have a studio. Never really wanted to work with artificial lighting. And as far as working with kids, it's like, I don't know about all that. All that changed. Literally all of that changed. To a point where I have a studio now. I work with lighting, and I do work with kids as well. So it's fun. It's like you're getting into your groove, Wow. It's almost like if you remember the cartoon Speed Racer, he get into their the Mach 5, and he's in his groove and everything. So that passion started taking off once I got into the studio and started speaking with people, talking with people, doing headshots, doing branding for folks. Also dabble into a little bit of fashion. Love fashion. Never understood the reason why I like fashion so much. Stuff from clothing from the 40s on up. It's just like, oh, look at all this stuff. So that's kind of sporadic in a nutshell, kind of my journey as far as photography is concerned.
That's fantastic. I love that the love came from your love, right? So your wife is who introduced
Absolutely.
you. In other words, she told you, you're not about to boss me around. Come do this yourself.
Exactly. Right.
All right. So give us 3 of your whys. Why do you do what you do? your top three, no particular order, but three things as to, what makes you get up every single day and say, hey, this is what I do, this is why I love it, and this is what I want to give the world. Because your work you share with the world.
Okay. I try my best to answer questions, and I will, if you have not noticed, I will go down a rabbit trail real quick. Also, I'm trying to get acclimated to where am I looking? I'm looking down here. I'm looking over. So you have to excuse me on that. So I want you to ask that first question again for me. That way I'll
Okay, no problem. I want you to give us your top three reasons for why you do what you do. Like what fires you up? What makes you continue to do it day after day, year after year? What are your top three reasons why?
The creativity circulates through my blood. I can't help it. I want to be creative. Not only am I a visual person, I'm also an audio person. I love music. One could say that music is like my first love, and the visual is an extension of that. And they work in tandem. They work together. Just being creative. Some people are creative in the business world. That is not me, unfortunately. And I shouldn't say really unfortunately, but that's just not me. When I listen to music, I can almost hear it, and when I play it, it's almost like it's visual. It's like a color in a sense. When I look at movies, I'm thinking about the music. I'm thinking about also how things look visually as well. But it's that drive to be creative. That's one of the first things, the drive to be creative. Second is the interaction with people,
Yes.
humans.
Yes.
Wanting to interact on a creative level is very, very important to me. And trying to bring out what some people have inside. That's number two. The third, which kind of connects, is to having a relationship. I think that in the day and age, we're so used to having electronic relationships that we don't have really sit down conversational relationships face to face. And I understand within our day and age that what's going on with COVID and everything, that we want to keep our distance, but I hope that doesn't keep us from developing a relationship with each other. And that's very important. Once you have a relationship with someone or strive for a relationship, now you bring value to that person. You bring value not only to that person, but you can bring value to that culture and everything else once you get to know, if that makes sense. So those are kind of the three things that really drive me. Some people would say, it's money, and it's far from that. It's just wanting to be creative and be creative with other creatives and just people. Just get to learn and know who they are.
I think that's a t-shirt. Be creative with other creatives. All right. So, there are so many things that happen in the world of visual marketing. And to tie in the definition of visual marketing, it's the use of images, videos, and pieces of other multimedia content to strengthen your brand. As a creative who is, you're working to try to pull all of these things out and to make sure the brand is speaking truly from a visual aspect. How do you make sure that you're respecting that space, that visual space, when helping a brand identify that space through visual, right? Because usually we have the words, but how do you make that magic happen visually?
I think when working with any individual or any entity, it's again, like most things, is to sit down and have a conversation. My job is to be creative. My passion is to be creative. And I've turned that into, I don't want to say a job, but I turned that into something that I do. And when you're working with an individual, when you're working with a entity, they have a laundry list of what they think that they kind of want, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you want to get to the genuineness of what that business is about. Once you get to that genuineness, this is who we are. Now let's paint a visual picture for others to see who you are. So
Love that.
Just sitting down and establishing a relationship with, again, a company, a business, a person, to me, that is key, that is important. Some people, they can, I shouldn't say some people, but you can go in and just go, okay, well, this is what we're going to do. Or you can just be very, glib about it and just say, okay, well, I see your ideas. Let's just go ahead and go with it. Interact too. It's all right to interact a little bit to kind of see what creativeness is underneath their idea, what creativeness that particular company or business or a person has. And I hope that I answered that question. Like I said, I can go down a rabbit trail real quick. Sometimes you have to reel it back.
You're fine. So I want to touch on this. I heard you mention that you want to use St. Louis as your backyard to build outward growth. Mm-hmm. Right? What exactly would that look like from a visual aspect when you say you want to use St. Louis as your backyard to build outward growth?
There was a point in time where I felt like coming up as a creative that, and the only way to really make it, whatever make it is to go to New York, go to LA, Milan, the UK, Chicago even, and not really invest in what we have here. And that is important. St. Louis is revitalizing in certain areas. They're revitalizing, not only the architecture, but they're revitalizing historically as well. Putting money into the city, as we can see, we're getting a new soccer stadium.
Yes,
actually football, but a new soccer stadium. And we just got our, a Ferris wheel, and I've been hoping that we would get a Ferris wheel for a long time. I'm thinking, this was like 10 years ago. It would be great to have one in Forest Park. Forest Park is great. So they put it right, put it up right next to Union Station. Those attractions gives St. Louis, people can kind of take a look at St. Louis. Okay, well, they're doing something. That's great. That's aesthetics. But the people in St. Louis, us as creatives, us as business entrepreneurs and such, we have to dig in and work with each other. Creatives have to, kind of dig in and work with each other. Have workshops, talk to each other. What are ways we can bring the world's attention to St. Louis the way people's attention is drawn to New York? What are some ways to do that? Not in a competitive mode, but to say, hey, we have something here beyond toasted ravioli. And don't get me wrong, I like toasted ravioli. I like, some people say it's a little gummy, but it's all good. It's St. Louis. It is who we are. So I think just a lot of things go back to relationships, but just having relationships amongst creatives and such, I think is very imperative and very important.
That's awesome. That's amazing. And that's interesting to say, are we maximizing what we have? Look at all the resources around us. That's a beautiful message in itself. So, okay. So I am a business entity, and I'm coming to you to say, what can I do as a business, as a leader, to encourage representation in our media? What advice would you give in a consultation, if you will, if someone said, hey, I want to make sure that the brand is represented, but that the people, the power of the people is represented through our media? What advice would you give?
Talk to your people. You got to talk to your people. You have to get on the floor level and say, have like a town hall meeting with some of your people and just pick your brain. Just say, how do you feel about XYZ company? How do you feel that our company, how can our company represent those outside of the company. Instead of making an assumption that you know what everyone wants, because that's what we've seen in the past 40, 50, 70 years is an assumption. And I think we're getting better with reaching out to those of different communities, those of different cultures, genders as well. What do you all want? Let's start speaking to each other. So when it comes to consulting, is building that relationship and saying, okay, we've built a relationship, or we're building a relationship as, vendor and entrepreneur, business owner and such company. Are you building a relationship with your employees? It goes beyond just a paycheck. Are you having a talk? A lot of business owners, or a lot of owners of businesses, for some of them, it feels like, okay, well, we're going to do it this particular way, but you have to listen. You have to be transparent. You also have to listen to what people are saying. Yeah, you own the business, but you got to still listen to what folks are saying, because that's that engine that helps run that business.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can use it, say Disney, but we see it in Disney. Disney does not look the way Disney did in 1974. It doesn't look the way it did in 1960. Disney is very different nowadays, because what did Disney do? It listened to their employees. And it's like, what? We have a lot of different cultures here. We need to start bringing some stories that's going to speak to different cultures. Yeah. So, I think taking a page out of Disney's book would actually help as well.
Yeah.
And this was not paid for by Disney. I just want you to know.
Inclusion and conversation is what I heard in a nutshell. All right. So if you had a dream scenario of a landscape, what would that vision look like, and what would you envision the creative community adding to that dream scenario? So it's all yours, your dream. However you want to see this scenario when it comes to visual marketing, what would that dream scenario look like, and how could the creative community jump into that dream with you?
That is an interesting question. Dream scenario. I think I would go back to when I was younger. For me, that dream scenario was to actually, and I hope that I'm answering this question correctly, pull me back in or guide me if I'm not.
Gotcha.
I wanted to see folks that look like me. Okay. Those are things that I kind of wanted to see. That's my landscape. That would be for me a perfect landscape, is for everyone to be able to see someone that's like themselves. Okay. I noticed, like with the Barbie brand, that they're expanding to those who are wheelchair bound. Are we going past what the typical norm is? Are we looking at everyone? So my dream scenario is, let's stop for a second. Let's look at everyone that's out there. And as creatives, let's push past what we think we should do. And that's what I mentioned other creatives as well, is don't limit yourself to what New York put out 5 years ago.
It's a fantastic
Don't
point.
do that. They don't govern and it's not, please don't take it the wrong, it's not a hit against New York, but don't go beyond that. Don't be afraid to, okay, well, that didn't work. That's okay, it didn't work, but take a chance, just do it. So if you want to have someone of a different this or a different that come in as a creative, do it. Just put it out there visually. I kind of hope that made sense.
It does. It does. It does. No, you're all good. I'm loving it. So throughout our conversation, you've mentioned a few times about, I asked you one of your whys, and then I asked you about your love for visualization, and you went back to your youth. So I am going to wrap around that and say, the youth. What advice would you give the youth who are, just sticking their toe in the water and really starting to understand what visual marketing is in the world of visualization, like what would be your power fist of 5 points to give the
5
youth?
points? Oh man. I don't know.
The pressure's on now. It's on. It's out there. The pressure's on.
If you can count, I can. If you can keep up, I don't know if it's 5.
I got you.
Maybe
I'll definitely keep count.
2 3/4. And I've even mentioned this to not only those creatives that are in a visual aspect, but even in a musical aspect, that don't be stagnant with what you see right now. Go back and look at one of my favorite genres of photography would be late 60s, a good portion of the 70s because of the polarization of things, fashion and everything else. But look at those things from the past and glean from those things from the past as well. Lighting really has not changed that much since, I probably want to say, the 40s and the 50s. We're not using the huge cans and all that kind of stuff with the lights that's like 2,000 watts. If you get close to it, you will get a tan. You can probably cook some meat on it if you get too close to it.
Oh wow!
We're using LEDs and everything else. But Rembrandt light, if you look at how old Rembrandt was, Rembrandt lighting is still used. So don't just stay stagnant in one fixed time period, but look at everything from the 90s, the 80s. What were people doing then? Because we like to go back 20 years and try to recycle. And I think we're kind of hitting the ceiling here. That worked great up into the 90s. But still look at those different things that are around you. I think that's one thing. Look at other creatives. Photography in and of itself, and even videography, we pull from musical aspects. You pull from movies. A lot of photographers, they're taking a cinematic approach to how they deliver their product and how they shoot. I know I'm one of them. I love cinema.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Pull from other different types of genres. I'm trying to think. I told you that it's not. You said 5 points. I'm trying to think of 3 other points. I think that's a good start. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll say up to 5 points.
Up to 5 points.
No pressure. I'll back off of the 5. No pressure.
Well, you know what's going to happen? What'll happen is I'll get in the car and I'm like, 15 other points will come up.
That's how it goes. That is how it goes. Well, really, I want to thank you on behalf of Team Buzzbold for joining me in this conversation. I want to make sure that those who are watching can connect with you. Can you tell us what is the best way to connect with you? How can people see your work? How can people, if someone wants to continue the conversation with you, what is the best way to get connected?
The best way is type in my name in the search engine. This is very important. Antonio T. Harris Photography. There is an Antonio Harris Photography, and he's in Georgia. I'm in St. Louis. So you have to remember the T. So it's Antonio T. Harris Photography. I can be reached through Instagram. I can be reached through Facebook. I can be reached through LinkedIn, Antonio T. Harris, or Antonio T. Harris Photography. Most definitely.
Perfect.
And I am open to talk. There's times I will have workshops on Fridays. And I'm not saying I'm a teacher or anything like that. I like to build community, especially amongst creatives. So, if someone wants to, have a workshop, if they want to collab, I would love to collab with actors, models. I like the fashion, I like the glam as well.
Yeah. Well, that is awesome. Thank you so much again. This was a fantastic conversation. For those of you who are watching, please leave comments. Let us know what you thought. Give us some feedback. This conversation was about respecting identity in visual marketing and the importance of representation with the super talented,
Oh my goodness.
super funny,
No pressure.
Antonio T. Harris. So thank you again. I'm JP, Director of Customer Success for Buzzbold. Please follow us on social. Again, give us feedback, give us comments, share this. Let us know what you think, because we plan on doing more of this. So we want to know. Antonia said earlier, we have to talk to our people. All right,
Yes.
we gotta listen to the people. So that is our goal. Thank you all so much. Thank you again, Antonio, and talk to you soon.